merci d'avoir pris le temps de venir partager cette expérience avec nous. Nous allons découvrir avec Deepa qui va vous faire ce masterclass toute la palette aromatique que l'Écosse a à nous offrir, par ses régions, ses finishes en différentes formes de bois ou d'autres. Donc j'espère que vous allez profiter de ce moment, de vous faire voyager dans le temps et l'espace, et profitez bien. Et je voudrais aussi profiter pour remercier toute l'équipe, Deepa, Bipacha, Roshan, Rupesh, Irish et Shina qui ont organisé ça pour nous. Et Maurice aussi. Merci beaucoup et bon appétit.
Welcome to this masterclass. We have a selection of about more than 15 whiskey masterclass, but for you today we have selected to go through the Great Scots. So what are the Great Scots? They are very popular whiskey from Scotland, using different technique from whiskey aging of Scotland. So tonight, or this afternoon, sorry, we shall be tasting William Grant's Triple Wood Scotch whiskey, and then the remaining are malt whiskies. We have the Balvenie, the Glenfiddich, the Monkey Shoulder, the Glenmorangie, the Ardbeg, and the Monkey Shoulder. So we shall be tasting all of that, and they're all very different. And what is exceptional about this type of whiskey masterclass is that there is also food pairing, and not all the dishes that you have in front of you might be appropriate for the whiskey tasting. There are some cheaters, there's only one actually, that you might not like. But then again, every person has got a different palate. And I don't know what you eat and what you ate before. This will also affect your palate. So we have different dishes. We have blue cheese with cherry tomatoes, mozzarella. We have pool lamb. We have celery mousse. We have poisson salé snook mousse. We have pumpkin pie. And we have a chocolate mousse. So it's going to be interesting. I am not going to tell you which whiskey you should drink with which dish. You're going to taste all the whiskey with the different dishes, and you will see that some people will have some favorite pairing and others won't like it, and it's all going to be very different. The reason why we do this is what we call an experiential tasting. I could come here, go over PowerPoint, give you a lot of details, and you will walk out of here and you will not remember a single thing. Here, we work with a lot of our customers, and we figured out if we let them play with the different whiskies, they understand better. Okay? So before we get into the whiskey tasting, we'll go a little bit on what is whiskey, but I won't be theoretical. I speak English, French, badly, but I understand perfectly. A little bit of Hindi, Creole, badly, but I understand perfectly. A little bit of Bhojpuri, badly, I understand. I can't even speak it. A little bit of Mandarin, and that's about it. So any questions, feel free to communicate to me in any language that you want, and I'll be okay. You don't have to speak in English, Creole, French, it's fine, okay? If you don't have any question, we're going to jump in. We're going to try to keep it within an hour, and lesser and go a little bit faster with certain things. It won't be too theoretical this time. All right. So basically, in whiskey in general, we're speaking about Scottish whiskey. You've got single malt whiskies, which you would have the Glenmorangie, the Glenfiddich, and then the Ardbeg and the Balvenie. These are the single malts you're tasting today. You also have single grain Scotch, which we do not. It's not a very popular category, so we don't have it. South Africa has started making single grain whiskies. It's a trend that is starting, but not there yet. Blended Scotch whiskey, which is the William Grant's triple wood in front of you. And then you have the blended malt whiskey, which is the monkey shoulder in front of you. And then blended grain Scotch, which we do not have. So to be called a whiskey in Scotland, malt whiskey will need to have barley, malted barley, yeast, water and aging barrels, distilled in copper stills, matured minimum 3 years in Scotland, and bottled in Scotland at 40 degrees ABV. Blended Scotch, which is William Grant's, it is bottled in Scotland, but on that category, the Scottish Whisky Association allows the distillers to export whiskey in bulk. That's why in Mauritius we can bottle, we have whiskies like King Robert's from our competition, George Cambridge and Finlaters from us, Wright and Gregg, Sir Edwards. They are bulk whiskey that come here in their big barrels. We do not touch them, they come at around 60 degrees of alcohol, and we add a specific water, bringing it up to 40, and we put it in bottle. We don't try to age it, we're not supposed to touch it. So the reason why we do that is because to protect the local market. If a whiskey is bottled in Mauritius, the taxes are lesser, whereas if you import whiskey bottled already, it's a different taxation. By bringing whiskey here to be bottled, we're creating job opportunities, we're running the factory, we're learning new skills. From whiskey we can learn how to make really great rums as well. The techniques are pretty similar. So that's a little bit of the big categories of whiskey. And now, next slide. Now there's something called the Whisky Map. This is the map of Scotland. We have 5 to 6 regions, which is the Speyside, the Highlands, the Lowlands, the Campbelltown, Islay, and the Islands. Now, from the Speyside whiskey, we have a very light and also rich, depending on how it's been aged. And today, from the Speyside category, you will have Glenfiddich, Balvenie, William Grant's, and Monkey Shoulder. From the Highland category, we're very lucky to have the Glenmorangie single malt whiskey. We do not have any whiskey from the Lowlands yet. They're not very popular category in Mauritius, or from the Campbelltown, but today we're very lucky to have also the Ardbeg, which is from Islay, which is the peatiest. You will understand everything after the class, and you can explain to me everything that you've learned, which is a really, really peaty whiskey. We're going to keep it for last so that you can see the difference, because if you drink the Ardbeg at the beginning, you won't be able to taste the other whiskey. It's got a lot of character. There are 2 categories: either people love it or they hate it, and it's an acquired taste. I fell in love with it, so we are going to go through that. We also have from the same distillery William Grant Smoky, which is a lighter version of the peaty, which most people can drink if they're not too peaty. So, without going into much detail, so I was saying the main ingredient of whiskey is the grain. The grain selection. Some distilleries are very proud to have their own plantation of barley. So they control the process, other buy barley from the merchant. That's what makes the price of the whiskey if you're controlling the entire production. So the grain then is crushed into a sort, we call that a wash. It's sort of crushed. And then the fermentation started. Fermentation can be natural, yeast levure, which is a sort of a microbacterial process that starts by itself. Certain distillery, more modern distillery, have started adding sort of a synthetic yeast to make the fermentation faster. And then you distill. In distillation, what you see in front of you is a copper pot. Ça ressemble à une cloche. You also have column stills, comme le nom dit, it looks like a column. For whiskey, because we want something that is extremely rich, we go for a copper pot, whereas for vodka, gins and everything, we go for column still, which is for lighter. And now, the other most important ingredient in whiskey is the wood. There is an entire encyclopedia on which types of barrel you can use. So basically the biggest producer of barrels would be automatically USA. They produce bourbon barrels which give a sort of a sweeter, more honey, more caramel taste to the whiskey, and European barrels which add more spiciness. So whiskies have started to experiment with the barrel by mixing, by putting it aged for 12 years in bourbon barrels, and then they shift to European barrels. And now in the barrels might have been used for different alcohols. The barrels might have aged wine. So we use second-hand barrel. Interestingly, second-hand barrels can be more expensive than first-hand barrel, because when you put the whiskey directly from the distillery in the barrel, the wood is so strong that the whiskey is absorbing all the taste, and at times you don't want such a woody whiskey. So you use a second-hand barrel that has already been used to age other spirits, so that you get a whiskey that is not aging super fast, that has a more balanced taste profile. So it might have been used for brandy, for American whiskey, for sherry, for wine, different types of wine, everything. And finally, when that is an heure. The wood makes a huge difference to your whiskey. And once you're done, you bottle. You bottle your whiskey. At times I have clients that call me and say, I had this whiskey for 30 years in my grandma's cave and she died and everything, how much it's worth? How old is the whiskey? How old does the label say? It's 12. If you take a 12-year-old whiskey and you keep it for 30 years, it's not a 42 years whiskey. It's a 12 years whiskey, and its value is that of a 12 years whiskey, because once you put it in the bottle, the whiskey doesn't age. But we have 15-year-old, 18-year-old, 21-year-old, 25, 50-year-old whiskies that sell over £1 million, which my CEO refused to buy for me. We just wanted to keep it, you know, like to show people and to drink a little bit better. Like whiskies can go very expensive because they're aging in barrel. If the barrel has got air space, so the whiskey is evaporating at the same time. See, a barrel is like 200 liters. Maybe after 12 years, you get 180 liters. But if that whiskey is aging for 50 years or more, 60 years, out of 200 liters, you might only get 10 liters of good whiskey that you can actually bottle. So that's why the older the whiskey, the more expensive it is. Questions? Good so far? No, principalement oak. Principalement oak, mais American oak or European oak. And then aussi, on va dire, which oak, comme si on te dit sherry oak, c'est pas une catégorie de bois, c'est that sherry has been aged in that, but it's principally oak. Now, for the tasting experience, ladies and gentlemen, be comfortable. Start undressing yourself. Okay? So why it's important to undress? Vous avez, those that are putting jacket, just remove the jacket. I'll switch off the aircon if it were cold. You will be using your skin on your hand. And you'll be smelling each other.
Are you kidding?
No. Ladies, when you have put perfume, where did you put perfume on your skin? Ah, that place you can't use now. Anywhere else on your body that you can use? So here, Usually we don't put perfume on the skin because when the sun heats, it actually is cooking your skin and it leaves little dots here. It's best on the clothes. Here maybe, but yeah. So my watch off.
Mais les parfums montent quand ils disent c'est les points chauds, même si...
Pas nécessairement. C'est ok, mais ici en principe, c'est pas recommandé. I mean, I just did like a perfume course in essay, and now it's like, okay, don't put on me. Okay? So, the first thing that we're looking at is the glass. It's called a tulip glass. Gros poupon, small nose. So it brings all the flavors up. Okay? So the glass is important. Usually it's on a stem. C'est-à-dire c'est comme le dernier verre qui est là-bas. Or it's like on this, the shape is similar, whether it's got something for you to hold or not. Could make a difference because when you're holding it in your hand, you're heating it up. For this tasting, heat is interesting. So for champagne, maybe no, you don't hold your glass like that, you're heating up your champagne, but for whiskey, it's okay. For cognac, heat is really good. So now vous avez un papier devant vous. Okay. Qu'on va utiliser. Ça a plusieurs purposes, c'est un super papier magique. Il y a les 6 whiskies où vous pouvez mettre vos notes. Nos clients notent les whiskies so that they can remember which one they want to buy afterwards. And they say which one they like, what food did they like with, because when they go home they're pretty forgotten what they like. So that paper as well, we will use it to look at the colors of the whiskey. Different colors. So automatically, what has shocked you is probably the Ardbeg is a very pale whiskey. It's a yellow, very pale, but because it's got so many things happening, it doesn't need a very strong wood to absorb the flavor. So when you look at that whiskey with the grass, you should be able to see 3 colors. Papier blanc, pompière, 3 different, on appelle ça des hues, H-U-E. So that's because the whiskey has aged in 3 different barrels. It takes 3 different colors. You just have to move it and you will see little colors and you will see it in the different whiskies. Now, the nose. That's where it's found. Who drinks whiskey here? Who does? Okay, simpler. Who doesn't drink whiskey? Okay? It's because you hate the smell, the taste of it, it's too strong. Okay? So, the purpose is not to hurt you, it's to make you enjoy. So we're going to share little tricks that we learn by hurting ourselves. If you smell the whiskey like this, it's going to burn. Okay, we'll take a stronger one, a Glenfiddich 10. It's going to burn your nose. Okay? Those, the 2 ladies that hate whiskey, you can burn your nose for a little while. But the trick is not very graceful, a little bit grossier. So discreetly, you open your mouth, and it doesn't burn. Try it. Mouth closed, mouth open. Mouth closed, mouth open. You see the difference? Now, the nose. Why did we ask you to undress yourself? Anushka, you didn't undress yourself. You have to.
I don't know how to read.
Okay. So now, whiskey, we said it at 40% of alcohol, so there's no bacteria if you touch it, so you can put your finger in it if you want. And so you put a little bit on it. And you select a spot where you haven't put perfume. You put your whiskey, and then you rub. And then you rub. And then you rub. Just choose a part where you haven't put your... Tu as plateau? So what you're doing is actually you're burning away the alcohol. And then what stays is the smell of the grain and the wood. Now if you smell each other, it will smell differently. Because it's also reacting with the oils on your skin. We all have oily skin. It's the natural oil, so you're actually mixing the whiskey with the oil. But because you're a different human being, your body smells differently because you have different, extraction of oil from your body. Some people are more oily, some people are less oily. Okay, so that's why it smells differently on everyone. And for men, it's such a beautiful perfume. Like you can rub whiskey all over you and it smells fantastic. If you like the smell of whiskey and you know your lady likes the smell of whiskey, just okay. There's another one. If you don't have cream on your hand, which is more spectacular, which guests love it, je suis gaucher. So let me try this one. So you put your hand here, okay, and then you turn it. Okay, good. You turn it back. Your hand is wet. Then you rub. If you guys want to give it a go, it's really fun. And then you rub, rub, rub. The sticky will disappear. Smells so good, this one. So, because whiskey is a natural process, we don't add. When we say whiskey smells like pear and everything, it's because it's been aged in a wood that has imported smell, pear-like smells. No one went and added pear or chocolate or toffee in the whiskey. It's actually completely natural progression, natural process. What happens is very funny. If you have never tasted pear in your life, pear or apple, your brain doesn't know what it tastes like. So it's smelling something new. And it's going, usually your brain will try to find something similar and say, this whiskey tastes like apple. But it's not, it's because your brain tastes apple. Now, if your friend has never eaten an apple, has never smelled an apple, and they smell it, they'll go like, no, I don't smell any apple. I smell, I don't know, mandarin or something similar to apple. So it's very different, it's very personal for each person. It's important to do smell, because when you're distilling, there's something called the head and the tail. And then you have the heart. The more you cut into the heart, you get a better whiskey. Because with the head and the tail, you can have the depot, certain chemicals that you don't want to. And you either use it to soak your barrels, to burn your barrels, because some barrels are toasted to give more flavors, or you wash other things with it, your barley. Because it's expensive, some people cut more in the head and tail, and the whiskey retains a bad smell. You know, like you'll get that in cheaper whiskies. So when you rub, if you get that smell, that you know that that is actually not such a good whiskey, and that smell, when you drink it, basically, those elements can give you a headache. But also, you can get a headache is because you need to drink a lot of water when you're drinking alcohol, because you need to keep your body hydrated. With any alcohol, wine or spirits, your body is dehydrating because your liver is working faster. So if you drink more water, you don't get headaches. Les allergies sont assez rares, assez rares. So now we have done the smell part. Now the taste part. Again, for the two ladies who don't drink whiskey, so that you don't hurt yourselves, there's a glass of water in front of you. You take a sip of, well, a gulp of water. You wet your mouth. You ensure that your mouth is wet, especially your tongue. And then you take a sip. And it doesn't burn. Now, if you don't even like it, then what we can also do, we can add a little bit of water to the whiskey, and it gives different flavors. Basically, what I like to tell my consumer when they ask me, how do we drink whiskey? I ask them, is it your money or my money? This is it's my money. I said, okay, it's your money, you paid for it. You drink it the way you want it. There is no correct way, maybe except not with Coca-Cola. The expensive, the mild whiskey, if you tell me drinking Coca-Cola, I have a heart attack. We know who drinks expensive whiskey with Coca-Cola. We here amongst the press. Water, soda, good, interesting choices. Ice, I like to add my ice first, and then I put in my whiskey. Others like to put their whiskey first and add their ice. You have a lifetime of experimenting. Just play with the whiskey and figure out which way you like it. And then as you grow older, when you're younger you like sweeter whiskey. When you grow older, your palate gets more experience and you're looking for whiskey with more character. There are whiskies that you buy for yourself, just you and maybe your partner, and you don't share with everyone. Usually that's your favorite whiskey. And then there's a whiskey that you buy to show off, the big brands. You might hate it, but because the brand, everyone respects it, you have to have it. You're entertaining some VIP, you have to have the brand. And then you have whiskies which are light and easy drinking, which you can drink with a group of friends, which you really enjoy. It doesn't break the bank. Everyone is comfortable with that. So coming to the last one, you will see there's something called a finish. Some whiskies have got a very long finish. When you have drunk it, the finish stays. It stays very long with you. You can feel the finish from here. Others have got a very short finish. Others have a long finish that you will remember the taste when you walk out. So that's the main part of the tasting experience. You have these notes here, so you will as well, you will learn by yourself which whiskey has a long finish, which one doesn't. Okay? Mubash, next slide. Thank you.
Well, if you are a smoker,
yes.
Is better to smoke cigar with whiskey?
Again, it's your money, so I've got friends that that smoke cigars and cigarettes. So when you smoke cigarettes, automatically your smell and taste diminishes. Food tastes differently. When a smoker stops smoking, after 1 week, they taste something and they go like, wow, it's so different. Okay, with cigar, it's exactly, with cigar or cigarettes, it's exactly like food pairing. Some whiskey, because with cigar you're not absorbing, you're not inhaling the smoke, it's in your mouth. Okay, so it will, the taste can marry, the taste can divorce as well. It depends, it really depends. So there's no right answer. We as a company, we usually don't tell people to smoke cigars. We try to avoid that category of smoking cigar and whiskey because it's just, with smoking there's so many taboos. There are smoking we don't condone, though there's a lot of smokers amongst us, and promoting whiskey to underage people, we don't, and promoting whiskey to people that are already drunk, we don't. It's something to be enjoyed. When you're starting to drink whiskey alone on your own, half a bottle a day, you're starting to have a problem. But if you're drinking whiskey as like foie gras, if you eat foie gras every day, you will die of cholesterol. Basically, every food, every drink, every wine, whiskey is in moderation. There's nothing artificial in it. It's something just to enjoy from an Epicurean point of view. Okay? Are you a cigar smoker?
Just occasionally.
But then maybe
whiskey only.
the Ardbeg with cigar could be actually an interesting option. Okay? Good. So, next one. So it was the water part. So we're going to start with, it's not in the order that you have in front of you. We're going to start with the Glenmorangie, the 10 years. So Glenmorangie is from the Maison LVMH. I don't know, you probably know the news today. I think Arnaud, the CEO or the owner of LVMH, is now the second most richest man of the world. Bill Gates is number 3. So LVMH owns Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy, owns the most premium and luxurious brands of the world. And Glenmorangie is considered as a luxurious and premium malt in the whiskey category. Do you remember I was telling you about the pot still? There was a sort of a neck. They have the longest pot still of the world. So height as well can make a difference. So it's a different whiskey with more floral, sort of fruity tastings and everything. But to remember, it's the Louis Vuitton, from the Louis Vuitton, Tennessee house, and it's considered as one of the luxurious whiskies of the world. Okay? So,
there is a difference between the Scotch whiskey and Irish.
So basically, Irish is a whiskey. Not whiskey, K-E-Y, because the only ones that can call themselves whiskey is Scotch whiskey because they invented it. Japanese, Indian, Irish, American are all whiskey. And it's Ireland, there's a difference in the grain, and aging is 3 years as well. But they're not malt whiskey. They're lighter. They've got a lighter in terms of taste. They're very light. We've got some Irish whiskey if you wanted to taste later on, just to see the difference. You're not comparing Irish with malt whiskies because that's a different process. You're mostly comparing it with a Scotch whiskey, the blended, and you see it's a bit of a younger brother. It's sort of rising for younger consumers that don't want a very strong whiskey.
In fact, when you drink another whiskey, not whiskey is not only Scotch.
Oh yeah.
Is whiskey.
Well, every country is a big country starting. We even have a Belgium has started doing whiskey. So they have very different taste profile. It's the aging process they use, the water they use, the barrel they use, the grain they use, make it all very different. Japanese have got very deep, rich whiskey. Irish has got very light. American has got very sweeter whiskey. So all very different. I mean, there's no favorite. It's a trend, one goes, one down. It's up to the consumer to see which one they prefer.
Ça, on va faire un petit old fashion. C'est inspiré de old fashion avec ce point ici. Normalement, les old fashion on fait avec du whisky américain. Écossais, pas vraiment, mais on va faire avec des whisky écossais. Dites-moi si vous avez un whisky écossais qui vous plaît comme ça, le feeling, lequel que je vais fasse. On commence déjà avec un peu de sucre. C'est-à-dire, ça c'est à moi, ça c'est à vous. Un peu de sucre. Sucre. Normalement, on peut prendre du moulage de sugar, mais c'est bon. Un peu de bitter. Normalement, il y a des bitters, des angostura, les bitters d'orange, qui marchent très bien avec les whisky. Celui-là, c'est un bitter céleri. On vient de goûter du céleri. C'est 60 dashes of bitters. Just a bit of drinking water. Parce que sinon ça va pas diluer bien. Normalement on prend un peu de soda, mais juste a bit of it. Mais là on essaie de diluer. Déjà sans glace d'abord. Je vais la mettre à la température. Et pour vous, ça va être du lemon, c'est ça. C'est old fashion. C'est inspiré old fashion. Old fashion, normalement, c'est avec du orange peaches. Celui-là, c'est avec du céleri différent. Ça va être un old fashion avec des variantes. Plusieurs variantes. En haut c'est 3 CL, là c'est 6 CL. On met 4 cl. Je préfère la avec votre degré.
Et c'est combien de 3 films?
On met 4 cl. Et la dilution, l'alcool avec ça l'empêche, si on continue à diluer vite, ça va rendre plus frais et ça lâche pas de l'eau. Plus on fait travailler les glaçons, plus c'est plus de cocktail. Quand on shake, il faut travailler les glaçons. On va faire de l'orange, dans les zestes d'orange, il y a du oil et de l'acide. Si on va retirer tout le blanc qui est dessus, là ça va diminuer l'acide. Mais là, moi je préfère avec l'acide et le oil. On fait ça, vous allez voir, il y a tout petit peu d'huile qui va sortir. Pareil qu'on pèse les yeux là. C'est exactement ça. Et là, tout carrément. Et là c'est un bon déjà de whisky, mais avec du sucre. C'est plus basique ici. C'est des huiles classiques. Dans tous les bars, il y a des